Crossover Radio, radio with a purpose. You are live. No, we're not crossover radio anymore. Boy, I messed that up, didn't I? I was excited to get going. We are not crossover radio. We are Faithletic, the podcast, and you are on this very special edition of Faithletic, the podcast, with our special first ever in-studio guest. So welcome to the program, to Faithletic, the podcast, not what I just said, to Coach Quinn Wooldridge of Bethany High School, head basketball coach. Coach, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate being here and having me on. Didn't know that I was the inaugural guest.
You are.
That's quite an honor to be had. Appreciate being here.
Well, Quinn is not only the head basketball coach at Bethany High School up in Oklahoma City, or I could just say Bethany, Oklahoma, because it really is their own little entity there, right?
Yeah, we have our own little stratosphere over there.
But also, he is one of the co-founders of Team Black Mentorship, which is kind of a spin-off, or actually, this is sort of a spin-off of Team Black Mentorship, somewhat.
Yeah, we're all part of the same little umbrella over there.
Something like that.
We started a lot of different directions.
Yep.
To get where we're at.
We had to go somewhere, right?
That's for sure. That's for sure.
So those who don't know anything about Team Black Mentorship and maybe tuning in for the first time, it's a mentoring program basically set up for kids, but we accept all comers, ages, genders, and we've probably worked with about 50 people over the last, probably more than that if you count all of the events we've had, because we've done an event at OBU where you used to be the basketball coach. We've done FCA in Hinton. We did an event at
locations.
Yep, we've been in, I don't know, gosh, we've done 11 events.
Very humble beginnings up until some
Yep.
pretty high-level events.
Yeah. I mean, we had probably had 700 or 800 at OBU a couple of years ago out there at their chapel the chapel service, and then we probably had about 300 at Trinity Baptist Church last year. So we've been up, down, and in between in all different places. But gosh, it's great to have you on the show.
Been great. Looking forward to being on.
So one of the things that we had Quinn on is he is basically our NBA aficionado. So we thought we'd do a special NBA preview. We're only, 4 or 5 games in, correct?
5 games for just about everybody now.
And Quinn is a big Boston Celtics fan, so he may have some, I'm sure there's some Celtics fans listening in out there, I'll bet.
Hopefully a few.
And perhaps they'll be able to, maybe he'll give us some insight on, where the Celtics stand at this point, and then where the Thunder stand and the roster changes, and as Quinn said, not changes. Just there's a whole bunch of different scenarios there that you got to look at in the NBA. And I believe, is Toronto pretty strong still?
Yeah, they are. There are a lot of different faces there, but primarily one major one. But some other guys have kind of played bit parts for them the last year or two.
Right.
Have kind of taken a jump forward, and they're still kind of hanging in there early here in the season.
Well, so let's start out with, so we've got the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, correct?
That's right.
And for those, you're going to have to forgive me. I do not follow the NBA that much. I certainly pull for the Thunder, but it's kind of like Major League Baseball. I watch baseball when it gets into the playoffs. And it's kind of the same way with the NBA. Yeah.
NBA basketball is the finest game on the planet.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, sir. But
it is. It's my opinion. So.
You don't think NCAA is better?
For me, it's just I've gotten into following the NBA so much because you've got a little bit of continuity there, at least with personnel, and teams are a little bit more the same. Now that the last 15 years or so with the one-and-done rules and things like that with the NCAA, where
it is not as good as it used to be.
Real high-profile, big-name guys that are over there for a year, and by the time you figure out who's on what team where, those guys are off to the NBA and start all over trying to get things figured out. So just not a lot of continuity there. So I've gotten into just following players and teams and playing styles in the NBA, and that's kind of what skewed me towards that. I don't know a whole lot of hardcore NBA fans. Like most people are like you that really just like the NCAA stuff a little bit better, and kind of the pomp and circumstance and pageantry of the March Madness stuff. But I'm all in on the NBA stuff.
Okay, so let's start with the Eastern Conference. What do you see there? What changes? Who emerges? If it's not Toronto, then who?
Well, like you touched on, huge thing. I mean, Raptors, defending champs, but you take kind of the point of the sword away from those guys and you plug them into a Western Conference team. But they're off to a pretty strong start. Like I said, 5 games in. I think they're 4-1. Got a young guy named Pascal Siakam that just 3 years ago was about a 5 or 6 points a game guy, just kind of towards the end of the bench rotation guy that now I think he's almost 30 a game here these first 5 games, and just doing it in a different way. Just a young guy with a ton of energy and kind of a high efficiency type guy, getting to the rim, getting some high percentage shots. A couple of guys that kind of stepped up to being rotation guys. Fred Van Vliet, who was kind of an out of nowhere guy from Wichita State, but has moved into a starting spot already. And Kyle Lowry still there, kind of a mainstay. But they're off to a good start. The 76ers, have kind of made a splash a little bit the last few years with some personnel changes and big name guys. They got a really solid starting 5 and lots of size. They're kind of bucked the trend of playing small ball and spreading the floor out, where they've got a bunch of monsters in their starting lineup. They're point guard 6'10", Ben Simmons, and Josh Richardson.
6'10" point guard?
Yeah, Josh Richardson, who's a Edmond Santa Fe grad that has moved over there from the Heat in the offseason. They brought Tobias Harris back and signed Al Horford away from my beloved Celtics.
Uh-oh.
So, they got a kind of an old...
How dare they?
Kind of an old school throwback starting 5 type with a bunch of big bodies out there. So, and, last year, the team that really got on a roll last year, the Bucks were a team with MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo out there.
Say that twice without spitting something.
It's a little difficult. I got it out there quick, and I'll act like I don't need to say it anymore. But they're
you got it right once.
They're a group that plays a little differently, try to really spread the floor out. He's like a 6'10" or 6'11" ball handler and playmaker type. And, they kind of invert their offense a little bit. Brook Lopez is the guy kind of took the league by storm last year, transforming from a post player into a stretch 5 guy. Just read something the other day. He was the first player in NBA history to make 2 threes a game and then also block 2 shots a game. So it's kind of a little unique thing personnel-wise with them. And then, like you touched on, my beloved Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Had a chance to see him a time or two here early. My 13-year-old son, he's now surpassed me as the #1 Celtics fan in the house.
Yeah, I've seen him get a little bit...
I'm still able to function
wound
when
up.
the Celtics are struggling and not playing well, or if they don't win. He gets a little wound up, maybe a little even beyond that. But he's taken my place there in the house. But he's a guy that's pretty passionate about him, and he feels pretty good about this year's squad. He's extremely happy to have Kyrie Irving off of the Celtics and onto somebody else's team. But they're a team that a little bit like the Thunder was, where they kind of had a war chest of draft picks and things like that. But cashed a few of those things in and lost a couple guys in the offseason, like I said about Al Horford, and then Kyrie Irving went elsewhere also. Got a little less as far as in the assets go now, but maybe less is better in that situation where you don't have so many guys to pick and choose from.
So what team? Let's see. You mentioned the Celtics, the Raptors.
Right now, probably the 76ers, especially on paper.
Sixers.
Paper and personnel-wise, they're definitely the team to beat. The Bucks came out of the East last year, out of the regular season. First time through in the playoffs, trying to do much of anything. They fell a little bit short there. Raptors have got a ton of playoff experience, but don't necessarily have that headliner that they had last year. But I'd say coming out of the East, at least at this point on paper and personnel-wise and changes they made in the summer, the 76ers probably are the strongest team overall.
So 4 teams you pick out of the East?
I'd say there's 4. Even to this point, 5 games into the season, injuries have really, really hurt a lot of teams. It kind of took some of the shine off of some of their off-season acquisitions a little bit. But I'd say out of those 4, Celtics, 76ers, Bucks, and Raptors, I'd say that's your top 4 in the East.
Okay, Raptors, Sixers, Celtics, and who?
And Bucks.
And the Bucks. Okay. So out of that, who emerges as the conference champion?
Well, I got to say the 76ers have the best personnel.
Really?
And at the end of the day in the NBA, if guys stay healthy, best players are going to win that thing.
Okay. And then your MVP out of the East?
Over there now, Giannis was the NBA MVP, although I did witness him shoot 2 airball free throws in a row against my beloved Celtics while Celtics were able to come away with a win. But he's probably the guy too. Once the season's in full bloom and they're able to get their playing style back in order, he's probably a guy that's going to be hard to handle. And he, having won it last year, he's probably the guy again who's going to put up kind of eye-catching stats that help him do that again. Because Bucks are going to be really good again, win a bunch of games, and he's going to put up huge numbers. So that probably helps him do that again.
Okay. Coach of the year?
Coach of the year.
Out of the East?
In the East, a lot of times that's going to go just to the coach that's on the team that wins the most games. And that, if I stick with the same team coming out of there, that'd be Brett Brown with the 76ers. The thoughts on him kind of league-wide kind of been up and down the first few years, especially. He was coaching the 76ers when they were tanking for draft picks and doing all kinds of weird stuff. And not a lot of people thought a lot about him at that point, but he's hung in there and survived that whole process and probably comes out on the good end now.
I have a question for you concerning NBA coaches, but I'm going to wait till we get a little bit further down the road. So your team, those out of the Eastern Conference, one team that you didn't pick out of that could emerge as a surprise.
The Eastern Conference
Yep.
surprise team. No, there's several of them that are kind of in a bunch on that side. You're always going to have your bottom feeders that really aren't even trying to win very much. They're almost in kind of the mode that the Thunder are in right now. But one kind of dark horse that I would pick there on the Eastern Conference, and this is a team that's kind of outperformed a little bit here early. Cleveland Cavaliers have really been on the ropes early. Last 2 or 3 years, they haven't been very good. And once LeBron left town, things changed a lot. Got two dynamic guards in Colin Sexton and Darius Garland now. They're super young, kind of smallish. Kevin Love is back healthy. The ghost of Tristan Thompson is about 21 points a game and 13 rebounds right now. Those guys have kind of surprisingly looked competent here earlier. I think they could probably be a playoff team that nobody would expect anything out of.
I get reports from our listening audience about our audio, so trying to make some adjustments there. Okay, so the Cavaliers are your surprise
I think
team?
that could be a dark horse team that kind of picked themselves up out of the rubble and maybe make the playoffs. Maybe an 8 seed, 7 seed.
Okay.
But somebody would be kind of a shot in the dark to surprise.
All right, so let's venture over the West, which is everybody's basically, well, except for yours, favorite team as, or probably gets a little bit more attention, at least in this part of the country anyway.
And, over there, the West is going to be so LA-centric, two
Yep.
really, really high-profile teams
Yep.
now. It still seems a little odd growing up kind of a child of the 80s and 90s that the Clippers are a high-profile team at this point. But, they made a lot of moves in the off-season. Most notably bringing Kawhi Leonard in and kind of in tandem bringing Paul George on, which Paul George still waiting to play his first game of the season. He's out with a double shoulder injury, but he'll be back here soon. I've had a chance to see him once or twice here early on. Really, really deep team with star power on the high end. The Lakers are always going to be the Lakers. They've got a little bit like the 76ers, kind of a unique team with a lot of size, theoretically a lot of shooting to kind of surround those guys with. Those two teams that really have made a name for themselves in the offseason as far as like swinging the pendulum
Right.
in their favor. Kind of rounding out things over there. The Timberwolves have looked good here early. The Mavericks with young duo of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. Those guys have looked good early with one guy being out for basically 2 years and Porzingis with a knee injury and Doncic still being 20 or 21 years old. That's kind of a dynamic duo with those guys. So
Okay.
few new names and new faces over there on the western side.
Okay. So your 4 teams coming out of the West?
Coming out of the West on there, I'm going to say the Clippers, Lakers, Utah Jazz are
Ooh.
very, very solid. Made
Okay.
some great moves in the offseason. Picked up Mike Conley from the Grizzlies. Picked up Bojan Bogdanovic from the Pacers.
If you do, you'll clean it up.
Oh yeah, they got a nice little squad over there. The Nuggets are going to be really good. Got a lot of continuity left over from a nice young team they had last year. So there's a lot of possibilities on that side too. But I'd go with the Jazz, Clippers, Lakers, and the Nuggets as the final 4.
Really? So a couple of teams that were. So you don't see Houston in there.
Well, Houston's gotten really top heavy.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be able to identify with Harden and Westbrook out there. But some of the moves they've made the last couple of years to cut costs a little bit has kind of hampered their bench a little bit. They're really top heavy. A lot of their salary cap money is invested in those two guys, and there's only scraps left over to round out that roster. But, there can only be four. There might be 12 good ones over there, but only 4 of them are going to make it.
So let's revert back to let's say 3 teams. Let's say Thunder, Clippers, Rockets. Where do you see? Well, actually, let's back up. Your team that creeps into there that's not in your 4 you just mentioned. You mentioned the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Clippers, and the Lakers. So give me a 5th team that creeps in there.
Well, 5th one I'd throw in. I'd throw the Trailblazers in there.
So you're still bumping out Houston.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay, so
I've had a chance to see them a couple times, and it's just an interesting dynamic with 2 guys being so ball dominant, and then constantly having 3 to 4 guys that are just off the ball waiting their turn. But had a couple injuries here early. Gerald Green broke his foot and is out for a long stretch of time.
Right.
It's a rotation guy for him. It's kind of a 3-and-D type guy, and still got a really solid center in Clint Capella, guy from Switzerland. He's super athletic and mobile and kind of a modern day center type guy. But I'd have to bump them out of the 4.
Wow. Well, you bumped out 5.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good teams over there, and somebody's got to be on the slide a little bit.
So where do you see Houston ending up then?
They're obviously a playoff team. Probably a 5 or 6
Okay.
somewhere in that range.
They make any noise in the playoffs?
Oh, they're definitely a possibility when you get into like a 7-game series and you've got 2 guys that are that dynamic.
Right.
But talking about an 82-game schedule where you're vying for playoff positioning and things like that, there's a lot of things can go wrong. And when unfortunately, when the season is that long and you're that top heavy and dependent on 2 guys, and one of those 2 guys misses much time, with even something as insignificant as ankle injury where you're down 2 weeks and you miss 7 games, all of a sudden your 2-headed monster's won and you're still short-handed the rest of the way because you got all the money invested in those guys.
Right.
So, but if those 2 guys can hang in there, they've both been really pretty durable through the years. Harden especially, Westbrook with the exception of a couple of major injuries that he had. He spent some time out there, and he's been pretty durable too. But as those guys get older, things seem to happen.
Okay, so Houston at 6. So who finishes higher, Warriors or Thunder?
I'm going to say the Thunder.
Really?
Because now with the Warriors, with just the massive injury issues that they've got going on, Klay Thompson probably out for the year. Steph Curry, probably a month to 6 weeks at least with the recent hand injury that he's just had. I saw them the other night. It's hard-pressed outside of D'Angelo Russell, who came over from the Nets, basically in a sign-and trade for KD and Draymond Green. You're hard-pressed to find anybody that maybe shouldn't be playing for our G League team. That's a lot of guys that,
That's drastically changed, has it not?
Recognizable names from college basketball, but they haven't really made their way on the professional scene yet. And I actually was just reading an article this afternoon out of their $137 million payroll. Like 119 of it is wrapped up in 4 guys. And two of those guys won't play probably this season at all. And Klay Thompson and then Steph Curry, who's going to be out for an extended amount of time. Then D'Angelo Russell and Draymond Green. That's your 4 guys that you've got 90% of your payroll tied up in.
All right.
That doesn't leave a whole lot of scraps for anybody else, and it ends up being a bunch of guys that you never heard of. And that's kind of where they've gotten to. That's kind of the price you pay for a 5 or 6 year dynasty. There's going to be.
How many did they win?
They end up winning 3.
Okay.
Won a single one, and then went
2 back
to
back.
But,
Okay.
There's always going to be a tax to pay for that kind of run, and they're maybe in the middle of paying for it right now.
Well, I mean, Dallas has been paying it for 25 years, so.
They had a nice little run with Dirk in there, though, and managed to make the finals.
Well, I was talking about the Cowboys. We're getting off sports here,
I've been
but
on this planet for 43 years, and there's only a couple of years span where the Cowboys didn't seem to be paying for it.
so one of our listeners is asking Portland or Denver. So I'm assuming which one finishes above the other.
Oh, over the course of the regular season, definitely Denver. Denver's got a lot of continuity from last year and a lot of young talent. Nikola Jokic is a special kind of talent, as young as he is, and big body that he is, and being a multifaceted threat. I think he had a triple double last night with 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and played like 24 minutes. So he's a young, dynamic guy, and they got a lot of young, improving guys too. Over the course of a 7-game playoff series, though, the guy that I've really been impressed with over the years is Damian Lillard. He basically ran us out of the playoffs last year, us being the Thunder. Kind of ended an era for us with that last shot that he hit on us.
Right.
Got another guard that's really dynamic too, C.J. McCollum. Picked up Hassan Whiteside, who's kind of a rebounder, shot blocker from the Heat, so kind of a new face up there. Lost one of their big guys last year, late in the year, to kind of a drastic leg injury, but he should be coming back mid-year. And got some other guys that have been around and contributed some. So they're one that I like in a short 7-game playoff series. But over the course of an 82-game season, I got to say Nuggets finished significantly ahead of them.
Okay, so can you pick the 8 playoff teams out of the West?
Ooh, that might be a rough one.
So we already know you've got the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Trailblazers, the Rockets. So there's is that 4 teams, 5 teams, 6 teams?
I'm gonna throw Mavericks in there.
Okay, Mavericks.
Mavericks have kind of been on the ropes for a couple of years now, but I'd say they're gonna get back in there. I'm gonna say the Timberwolves are gonna jump in there this year, and kind of some addition by subtraction with them the last year or so.
You have a fan listening in.
Yeah, I've got. I'm here on the show here trying to talk sports with Dan here. I've got my daughter asking how much candy that we end up from trick or treat.
Yeah.
Amazing how they can stay on top.
I think she wants you to answer the question.
Yeah, for sure.
Hello, Gabby. How are you?
Yeah,
It's good to have your fan base
much
listening.
More out of her on here than you would in.
Yeah, I know.
It'd be the same response.
Yeah, silence.
That's for sure.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's a couple young teams there in the West that I think could make a run for things too. Got some of the, one team that looked like they were on the cusp of making some drastic moves in the standings. The Pelicans, they're another team that's been just hit by injuries here early.
New Orleans.
Yeah, the entire NBA world was just kind of set on fire for Zion Williamson in the preseason, and as good as he looked there for 2 or 3 games, and then before the season can even get up and running, he ends up with a meniscus tear and for quite a while. And then Drew Holiday has already missed a couple games, and they're kind of back left now with the scraps from that Lakers trade, the young guys that they got from them that couldn't win when they were wearing Lakers jerseys. And, they're 0-4 right now, and they can't win wearing Pelicans jerseys either.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward. We've gotten basically the 8 playoff teams. Obviously, the Thunder are not in that 8. So let's talk about the changes. Obviously, we've lost its heartbeat, which was Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, it's
and then of course Paul George.
It's hard to really I had a chance to go to a preseason game with my son to see the Thunder play against the New Zealand team that came in with the kind of high profile high school kid R.J. Hampton. It was just kind of a strange feeling in there.
Mm-hmm.
I had never been to a Thunder game without Russell Westbrook. I guess he thinking back, it's been long enough now. I guess his rookie year was the first year here in Oklahoma City. Got a chance to see those guys a time or two there, where he was, just kind of a young guy that was kind of making his way, and he for years and years was just, like you said, kind of the heartbeat of the franchise here.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy that kind of stayed through thick and thin, and when things went down with the Paul George situation and seeing kind of where we would be at, where we would be heading, made sense to help him move on somewhere where he could contend and continue to be in playoff picture year in and year out. Watching our guys, we're kind of in this like strange kind of middle ground where you've got some teams that just go all out and tank for draft picks, and they've got a bunch of guys you've never heard of that don't have much of NBA resumes.
Mm-hmm.
We're in kind of a strange like middle ground, but some of the guys that we picked up in some of these moves over the summer where you lose Paul George, you lose Russell Westbrook, who are just monster names in the sport. They picked up some sneaky, competent guys.
Yeah.
So we're not a team that's going to win 17 games and be set up for a top 5 pick, at least the way that our roster is constructed right now.
So how many games do they win? What's the over/under?
I think they're like a 35 to 40 win team, which doesn't sound
40 and 42.
Doesn't sound that
or 40 and 44. What do they play? 84, 82.
82.
So 40 and 42.
500-ish type team, I would say.
That might keep people in the seats, maybe.
Well, it's one of those things that, like I said, they're kind of in that weird middle ground where if you're not going to have a chance to contend for a title, you'd kind of like to bottom out. Get some high-level draft picks and have some young, exciting guys get in there that you can develop. The guys they picked up in those transactions, coming over from the Clippers, you pick up Danilo Gallinari and you pick up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which he's a young stud that you want to try to build around. Put 2 or 3 guys around there like him. A 20-year-old kid that, after 5 games, like 23 points a game on good percentages. He's a guy for the future that they want to keep around. Danilo Gallinari is a guy that we picked up at zero fanfare. The guy averaged 18 points, 6 rebounds a game last year, and he's really the kind of player they needed for years here, kind of a big forward who could stretch the floor and handle the ball and make passes. And they just picked him up about 2 years too late. But, those 2 guys they picked up, Chris Paul, is a guy that's making a ton of money.
How long does he stick around?
Well, I want to say he's got 2 years left of this monstrous contract. His contract was basically exactly the same contract that Westbrook was on, except a year shorter.
Okay.
He's a guy that still has got a lot left in the tank. He's not a prime Chris Paul at his peak anymore, but he's one of those guys that's still really, really good. He's a top 10 point guard in the league still.
Is he going to stick around though? Are they going to keep him? I guess is the word I'm asking. Do you need to keep him to keep selling tickets?
No, I don't think so. I think enough of the luster has worn off of him through the years. But the question is with him, he's a really competent guard that could really help a contending team, maybe push him over the top.
Yeah.
But is he worth the price tag to bring him onto your team that he's going to cost?
Sure.
He's a $35 million a year kind of guy.
A lot of space, or a lot of cap space getting eat up.
If you're going to trade for him, you got to send that same kind of money out.
Yeah.
And that's going to end up being a ton of players, ton of draft picks to make somebody else feel like taking that. So
somebody may not just want to pay the price.
Yeah, it would have to be somebody that's just right on the verge of contending for a championship, and that has a position of need also. So
sell the farm.
Oh yeah, that's what it would take to get him on there. But their group that they've got is kind of this middling group that's going to be able to win quite a few games. They're going to be just more talented and more competent than some of these young up-and-coming teams, but not as talented as the contenders. So I think it's going to be a 3 or 4 or 5 year process with this. You've got some guys that they'd probably like to move at the trade deadline to get off of their contracts. Probably Steven Adams is one of those that, depending on what your style of basketball you like to watch, he's kind of a dinosaur as far as modern NBA goes, where he's a big, plodding defensive center that, primarily plays only in the paint offensively. Right. But, just the way the game has changed, really just the last 5 years.
He's old school.
Yeah, he's an old school guy, and he's about 25 years old, so it's kind of a strange thing.
Yeah.
But, he's a guy that's got off to a really slow start. He's going to end up being a monster rebounder once the season kind of settles in and he's fully set in his new role. That was a thing for 2 or 3 years, and I think he averaged 9 rebounds a game last year, and Westbrook was stealing every rebound left and right out from underneath him to try to chase those triple-doubles.
Right.
He still averaged 9 a game.
Yeah.
But they've got what is a surprisingly competent, starting 5 in rotation. But when you look at the moves they made this summer, you don't know whether that's really what they want to accomplish.
So one of our listeners, David Raleigh, who happens to be a University of Central Oklahoma Hall of Famer, which you know a little bit about that, not at UCO, but we'll talk about that here in a moment, wants to know, is Billy Donovan the coach next year?
I don't think so.
Really?
I think it is when his contract is up, I think the situation that Thunder are going to be in for the next 3 or 4 years, I don't know that that's necessarily a situation that you keep a guy on that had been with you, when you're competing for a championship. We're going to transition, kind of change gears and go a completely different direction. It's got to be somebody that's willing to kind of ride that out a little bit. And like example made earlier, Brett Brown with the 76ers. He was a guy that was there during the process when they were absolutely putting on the most exclusive tank job in the history of the NBA. But now you see that I picked them to come out of the East, and they've got 3 or 4 high-level talent guys that they developed through that process, and you have to be somebody that's willing to be there for that. Billy Donovan's a championship college coach, has been in the mix competing for high-level playoff spots here early on with the Thunder. And it's whether you want to stay with that same guy during this next process that they're about to go through, or if you want to go to a guy that's more of a developer of young talent, a guy like that. So.
Well, that's interesting. So, I know we're kind of speculating, but any coaches that would be on the short list? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's going to have to be somebody that's willing to take a little bit of a hit on their career record, and not all those guys are willing to do that. Somebody that's kind of a young up-and-comer guy that might ride out what might be tough times the next few years.
So do the Thunder make it back from this?
I think they do eventually. Will they get back to the same heights that they were? I don't know if that's possible or not. I was listening on the radio over here. When you draft KD, Russ, and Harden in 3 consecutive drafts, I mean, that's probably 3 Hall of Fame players.
Yep.
In a mid-sized market organization like we are, and for NBA purposes, it's not a mid-sized market. We're a small market.
Yeah.
And
very small.
That's how you get to the level that they were, is through the draft and hitting on the right guys and getting lucky and getting to the heights that they were. I don't know if you get back there unless you're able to pull something like that off again. And that 3-year span of drafting. That's
so
historic level.
Okay. Is it because we can't take the hit in the major market to craft a team like the Warriors did?
Well, it would be a thing where I'd be hard pressed to think back who would the highest profile free agent we've ever signed off of the open market.
Nobody.
Yeah, and that's what,
because nobody wants to play in Oklahoma City.
Well, that's where it'd be difficult.
Yeah.
That's why
you'd have to get somebody who's of notoriety, or somebody they draft that turns into Seth Curry.
Yeah, you just have to approach it through the draft and through trades, and they're going about it the right way, trying to stockpile draft picks. But like we were talking before the show started, they've got a war chest of draft picks right now, but they're all from teams that are really good at this point.
So they're not going to gain much.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now got a lot of late first-round picks. It's going to have to be creative with those, how to package those together, maybe with another young player of ours or with a veteran with a nasty contract to try to consolidate those assets a little bit.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions containing the Thunder, here's a question. And this comes again from Mr. Raleigh. Can Thunder get a head coach from another team, or will they have to get an assistant? Does our market size keep us from getting a named coach? Good question.
I don't think that's the case, though. I mean, there's a lot of guys kind of on the retread out there that NBA coaching circles. Guys come back around. Guys that maybe been out a year or two, have been successful at another high-level place.
Like a Larry Brown?
Yeah, guys like that end up at lots of different places through the years.
We're talking about practice.
They've been better the last few years in the NBA about giving some new guys, some new blood.
Right.
You see a lot of guys that have been assistants. They got first-time head coaching jobs the last 2 or 3 years or so. But the Thunder are kind of in a unique spot for being for so long, a decade of extended success, that how to go about this rebuild. Whether you want to just completely go into top to bottom rebuild mode and you kind of tank a little bit for draft picks, or you try to just stay as competitive as you can. And that's a hard deal to stay competitive at the same time that you're rebuilding, trying to retool.
So I've had a few comments about where's KC or Kyle. He's like my main co-host here on Faithletic. So Kyle had a previous previous commitment tonight that he could not back away from. So even though, we're scheduled here on every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So I don't know what that was, but I do. But I'm not going to give him a hard time about it. So we had already made this coup of a signing for free agent Quinn Wooldridge tonight. So we just said, you know what, show must go on. We're gonna have Quinn come in and give us expertise on the NBA.
Well, I kind of compare myself to an NBA free agent.
Yeah.
When you got a chance to sign a hot free agent,
Yep.
you got to strike while the iron's
Yep.
hot.
Well, we did.
Yep.
We definitely signed it, or I did. So I am the closer.
That's
so
true.
yeah, yeah, whatever. So let's shift gears here a little bit. So we have a segment here that Kyle and I have developed and invented. And those that have been listening to us know the segment, which is called Overvalued, Undervalued, or Money. Now, I tried to explain it to Quinn before we went on the air. I think he gets the concept. So those of you who are hearing it for the first time, what I do is, and I do this off the cuff, so he is not pre-prepared for what I will give him, and he's on the hot seat. And so I mention a player, a coach, a team. It could be an entertainer. It could be a movie. It could be a food. It could be a fictional character. And he gets to, is he overvalued, which means that he's, overthought of, or it's overthought of, or is it undervalued, underthought of, or is it right on the money? Okay, so some of these, and we do generally try to do 3, one at a time. If we blow your mind, we may just do 1 or 2. So, you ready?
Full disclosure, my anticipation level of this topic is through the roof. I'm like a coiled spring over here. I'm ready to pop off.
Okay, and I will throw you a couple of curveballs here, so get ready for it. So, overvalued, undervalued, or money? Rocky Balboa.
I gotta say that Rocky's money.
Yeah.
He's right on the dot.
Yep.
Does
he ever really go away?
He doesn't. Now, he's showed up in a few different kind of roles the last few years.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. Just talking about Rocky. Just Balboa.
Just the original.
Just Bobby. Just the Balboa. Well, what did you? So
Rocky the fighter.
Yeah.
Is on a completely different scale than Rocky the trainer.
Yep.
Rocky the trainer.
Money.
Creed 1, Creed 2.
Yeah. Pretty good.
You have to be willing to accept a different Rocky.
Oh, he recreated himself.
Yeah, he did. Both character-wise and appearance.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's 80 years old. He got to do something. Can't keep fighting.
Still kind of looks like Rocky.
Kind of. Yeah, Eldrin, just going to say it, it's not how hard you get. It's how hard you get. Keep moving forward. How hard you get and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I got to say Rocky's money. He's
okay.
on the dot,
I agree. Totally.
May have started out a little undervalued.
Yeah.
And then, here laid.
Some of those movies are a little overvalued, though.
That probably leaves him right there in the money.
Yep.
Averages out right where he needs to be.
Yep. See, I think, we've had shows in the past where we've rated the Rockies, right? 1 through
I'd be
7.
interested in knowing your opinion on that.
Well, you want to hear my opinion on how I rank the Rockies?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's hard to outdistance number 1, Rocky, the original, the first movie. But probably my favorite of all the 5 or 7 is Rocky 2, because he won.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one where he came back and fought after retirement and Adrian dies, probably number 2. So that was the 6th one. And then maybe Rocky 3, Mr. T, Hulk Hogan, Thunder Lips. And then the 2 Creeds, because I didn't care. The Russian was good, but that was a little corny. And 5 was really corny with Tommy Morrison, Tommy the Gun. Or, was it Tommy? What was his name? Tommy Gunn?
Tommy Gunn in the movie.
Yeah. And and then one I don't know, but the two creeds I love, so kind of recreating it. But yeah, I'd go money.
In my mind, nothing gets better than Rocky and Drago.
Ivan Drago. Well, I thought the way they created it in Creed 2 was really good.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a throwback to it.
Yep.
Kind of bring all those guys back in there a little bit.
They're built on hate. And so they're good stuff. Okay, so you ready for another one, or is your mind completely blown?
No,
You're good? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So, overvalued, undervalued, or money? Tacos.
Is it Tuesday?
No, it's Thursday.
Tacos on Thursday. That's a game changer. Are we talking soft shell?
We're talking any
Or
kind of
hard
taco.
shell? Any kind.
Any kind of taco. You can do truck tacos or soft tacos or homemade tacos or Taco Bell if you want, but tacos in
Well,
general.
I've got to start with some of my proclivity there, where I am a soft taco guy.
Uh-oh.
The crunchy taco, it's a little challenging as far as like keeping the contents together.
It is.
So just tacos in general, with me being a soft taco leaner, gotta say that tacos in general are a little overvalued. If you give me the ability to wrap the hard shell taco with a soft taco around the outside, if you allow me to do that, then then I'm gonna turn that into undervalued.
I may not be able to do another undervalue your money. So, were you undervalued, you saying?
I'm gonna in just face value, tacos are overvalued.
Okay, well, see,
If you allow me to make adjustments to the taco,
absolutely.
that may change it from actually being a taco to some other kind
well,
of...
we got to keep it, got to keep it in a...
turn into some Frankenstein monster version of the taco, but...
I happen to do, so I homemade tacos for me, okay? I'll tell you, if I'm not doing homemade tacos here in a second, what I prefer.
Chalupa a taco? Because that's another thing.
Well, that's a good question. So, my taco's almost like a burrito because you do the beef and the beans and the rice and the cheese and the onion and the salsa or the pico, the fresh jalapenos. Did I say rice? And rice?
That you have now.
Yeah, okay. So, those are all in the buffet style. And then I have soft tacos, crunchy tacos, and also the soft tacos can either be flour or beef. And then, and lettuce, of course. So,
Flour or corn?
And corn. Oh, yeah. Corn tortillas, flour tortillas, and fresh corn. So, we cook corn on the cob, fresh corn on the cob, not frozen.
You're going all out there.
And then we cut it off the corn on the cob, and then it's one of the little sprinkle things.
Oh.
So, and I like to do an old-fashioned crunchy taco, which do the meat and the cheese, and then I put corn and onion and jalapeno and lettuce and then salsa. And then I also like taking the soft flour tortilla and putting the rice, the beans, the cheese, the meat, the jalapenos, the onion, and the salsa in it and rolling it up. So it could almost be a burrito.
So you're a full-scale taco.
If you've never been to one of my gatherings here at the house where I have homemade tacos, it will blow your mind.
Now, here I will qualify my statement of saying that the hard-shell taco is overrated by saying that the first bite of the hard-shell taco is outstanding.
Yeah, then you lose it.
The subsequent bites get difficult.
It's difficult.
You get a little spreadage. You got stuff going all over the place. I will say that first bite, though, is outstanding.
Okay.
It's the staying power of the soft taco that I prefer. Bites 2, 3, and 4, if you aren't taking large bites, are going to be superior to 2, 3, and 4 of the hard shell.
Okay, so we're kind of getting off track here, but we might as well go with it, right?
We're still in the realm of tacos.
We're still in tacos.
You opened Pandora's box.
I did.
Right now, here we are.
So my favorite taco in the world is the Fuzzy's soft shrimp grilled taco. And if you've not had Fuzzy's taco, where it has everything on it, it's like special. And I'm not even talking about just the shrimp taco, but like the chicken taco or the beef taco. But
I want to look over my shoulder here and see if you have a Fuzzy's logo.
I do not. But Colin and I are kind of pitching. We're kind of pitching like, if you want us to come on your show, or you want us, no, they want to come on our show and do a remote, we can be bought.
All right.
Just feed us, and we can and they get great publicity because they're getting the podcast here at Faithletic. Sup in the corner with the banner, and
you might show up next week with a Fuzzy's polo.
Yeah.
On, hat, everything. You never know.
I can be bought.
Huh? That's for sure.
Not that kind of guy, unless I'm paid. Okay, so are we done with the taco for a minute?
Yeah, we can
Now you're gonna go try the shrimp taco, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta. If you like shrimp,
You throw some guacamole salsa on
you
there,
can do that.
I
You
go
can
with
get that done. And by the way, Fuzzy's queso is the bomb. So
That's
I would.
a whole nother segment.
I'd recommend just one shrimp taco with the Fuzzy's queso with the beef in it, or the chorizo.
I'll have to check it out.
Knock you out. Okay. All right. So can you do one more, or are you're spent?
You can just keep doing it.
We're only going to do 3. That's our limit because we
We
probably.
can just do a whole segment of just nothing but these.
Well, we talked about doing just a food segment because it can get quite interesting. Okay, so here we go. Overvalued, undervalued, or money. And I asked this to Kyle, our first show. I want to hear what you have to say because things have changed a little bit, I think. Baker Mayfield.
As soon as you proposed this segment to me, I knew Baker was going to be one of them.
How did you know that?
Well, it's just, you can't not have a Baker opinion. even as a 99.9% to heart basketball guy, I still have a Baker opinion.
Okay. I want to hear it. I want to hear overvalued, undervalued, and money first, then let's hear let's evaluate.
I think currently, October 31st, 2019, I think Baker is money.
Okay. And that's what Kyle said, even back 3 weeks ago.
I think ahead of time, coming into the season, overvalued. They've obviously hit hard times.
Yeah. Well, they can't protect him.
Yeah, he's kind of on the run. He's running for his life back there.
Yeah.
I've seen him enough this year.
And he's an emotional basket case.
I've been intrigued enough to watch them several times this year.
Well, you can't help it because they're on TV more than the Dallas Cowboys are.
Well, they're on there, and then there's the off chance that maybe I get to see my friend Clay Martin.
Oh.
Get to see him
Okay.
sometimes and Baker at the same time, and that's like a twofer that you can't
Okay.
pass up. That's like a little side plug for Clay there, so I think get to see him reporting penalties, and that's just kind of a bonus. But with Baker, obviously a very, very charismatic leader.
Yeah.
And when, just like he said, I think it was maybe even this morning, he got into a little tiff with a reporter.
Well, that's kind of what brought all this up again.
Yeah, that he said, hey, you guys all want to hear the truth until it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, man, if you got some pieces around him, he can kind of be a game manager, and he doesn't have to be an all-world quarterback. Man, he can be a wonderful leader, I think. And just the kind of guy you need in a football huddle. Whether it's a basketball huddle, in the dugout on a baseball team. Like you touched on, he's a little prickly right now, but I think that's what you would want your leader to be like at 2-5. If he was all sunshine and balloons, and they were 2-5, and then they'd probably be looking to move on from him pretty quick. But I think right now he's kind of right in the realm where he needs to be. That's why I settled in on money. Overvalued before the season. They end up 2-14, and he continues to get in little tiffs with the local media.
Yeah.
And that's maybe going to move the other direction. But
so I'm not a big Baker fan. I personally think that he is he's kind of like Brett Favre. He brings a lot of attention to himself.
maybe even to another level than Favre did. As far as just with the bravado.
Yeah, maybe, but it's close to the same to me. But maybe a little.
Maybe just the 2019 version of it.
So he's gotten the endorsement. He's getting all this attention. He's got these commercials, which are really good, and the creativity, which I'm sure was his, whoever's doing the commercial. I don't even know who the commercials are for. I can't think of who it is.
They're Baker commercials.
But they're Baker commercials. I mean, they're doing their thing, but who is it doing the commercial for, you know? It's kind of like at least the State Farm ones, you know, the Mahomey and, you know, Aaron Rodgers, which is another one I can't stand. But, so, here's the thing with Baker. You know, he's already got a nasty reputation of, you know, trying to outrun the law in Arkansas and you know, refusing to, well, not refusing, but causing a riff at midfield and grabbing his crotch and, you know, doing those kind of things. Being a little bit cocky, which I'm okay with that. But you've got the limelight on you, and you get asked a question by a reporter who has a history of trying to stir the pot. And not to get off sidetrack here, I kind of wish that my head coach in Dallas would act a little bit like him when they're losing games instead of clapping his hands and trying to high-five everybody. You just got your butt kicked, and you're trying to get high-fives from everybody. So I like that part of him, but I think he has to be mature enough to understand that somebody's trying to do exactly what they got him to do. You know, come on, man, it's a stupid question, and he walks off. Like, he should have handled it, in my opinion. You're right, that's a stupid question. Next, somebody else got something else they want to add instead of just storming off and acting like a little kid. I'm going to take my ball and go home because you don't ask me the right question.
And at 4-3, he probably stays and takes some more questions. 2-5, you know, he's feeling some of the heat.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of a natural reaction of being in that situation sometimes. Like you said, you know, a little bit more mature and be able to hang in there and continue to be the face of your franchise rather than storming off.
Yeah, I think
a local guy.
I mean, I you know, you want to be the guy who's cool and calm and not bothered. And don't get me wrong, you know, he already does that on the field. He's gonna, you know, people know what his emotions are. He didn't have to pull that stunt to prove his point.
He just teeters on the edge of XFL a little bit.
Yeah, he would be better suited.
I saw, you know,
pro wrestling.
I saw somebody make a statement today, something about he's the sober Johnny Manziel.
See, when he came into the NFL, I compared him to Johnny Manziel, and I thought he would have a similar career to mine.
A little bit more substance to him.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Johnny Manziel's deal was that too much of his off the field antics and stuff like that overshadowed him as a player.
Yeah.
And when it turned out that he
didn't have the commitment.
Wasn't a top shelf player either. And
well, it could have been, I think.
He was out of there on the first train, but
he just didn't have the commitment level that Baker probably has. You know, talent wise,
more substance to him, but he's got to start focusing all that in the right direction, or people start to focus more on the off the field, the interview stuff, than they do on what's going on in the field. So.
And that incident is gonna push people to push his buttons even more. And if he'd have just said, "That's no, it's a bad, stupid question. Next question." I mean, what would Belichick do? I'm not gonna answer that.
Would have probably one word answer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer that.
Move on to the next.
Yeah, you know, or give a weird face or something. So, and of course, I understand there's 60 years of maturity there, difference. But anyway, okay, good. I mean, you like the segment, huh? It's pretty cool.
I could go for like 7 or 8 more.
Yeah, well, we're not, because I don't want to just shoot our wad for 3 shows.
Run out of topics.
Good job. Okay, so we're going to move past NBA, college, you know, our segment we just did. And those that may not know this, Quinn it's kind of historical. Him and his wife both are, because Quinn was a record-setting basketball player at OBU. I'd like you to fill people in on some of your accomplishments there without going too far, because I know you like to talk about yourself a lot. Just messing with you. He doesn't really unless you egg him. Him and his wife are the only husband-wife team in the OBU Sports Hall of Fame, which you might talk about your wife and then tell us some.
More towards my recruiting abilities.
Yeah, there you go.
Basketball abilities.
There you go.
But yeah, that was a neat thing that you know, I got a chance to go in a few years ago, and then my wife followed just a year or two after that. And you know, that's a major honor for us there at a place like Oklahoma Baptist University. Right. Who's got, you know, on the men's side, over 100 years of basketball success there, and now moving recently from NAIA to Division II, and trying to lay some new groundwork there. I mean, that was a huge thing for us. I mean, it's you know, a lot of times people try to downplay some individual awards and things like that. You know, which, you know, if it's you know, stat-based award or something like that, like some of that stuff's kind of hollow. But for for your own school and your alma mater to choose to honor you in a way like that. And it's a pretty flattering deal.
It is.
Because, I know that I worked really hard through the years to have some of the success that I did, but there's been a lot of guys come through there in the 100 years that, are a lot better than me and doing things like that. But I was lucky enough to be part of some really good teams and be a big part of those teams. And, it was a huge honor for me, and I know for my wife also, coming through there with having a little different background, coming from Eastern Europe and going to junior college first, and then, ended up there in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and it was a big deal for her to kind of find a home and find some people that cared about her, and a coaching staff that took care of her and was able to kind of maximize on her abilities. So I know it was a big deal for her too to be honored that way.
Well, I think it's really cool for you both to be in there. And so you took a head coaching job there, and then 2 years ago, and I know that when you and I met, you were the head basketball coach at Edmond North.
Yeah, I was at Edmond North. Yeah.
But I remember you telling me then, you're one of your ultimate bucket list things is to coach your son in basketball. You wanted to coach him. So you got that opportunity a couple of years ago, so tell us about that.
Yeah, that's thing. Originally leaving Oklahoma City here, I was at Southwestern Christian University. Left Southwestern Christian to go back to Oklahoma Baptist, have a chance to coach at my alma mater, and kind of at a unique time too. Like I mentioned earlier, they were moving from
transition
the NAIA ranks where they'd been uber successful for 20 years, and going into that transition for NCAA Division II, which our first 2 years we were, in the transition phase where we weren't postseason eligible, and then having 1 year of being eligible for those things, and kind of helping the program to get through that. We had some on-court struggles, but had competitive teams, and it was a great opportunity for me to be able to be back there, and still thankful for Robert Davenport, who was an assistant coach at OBU when I was playing there, and then worked for him at a couple different places, and count him as a good friend of mine. Appreciate him giving me the opportunity to come back there to our alma mater and try to help get him through that transition phase. But at the end of the day, just the opportunity to spend time with the people that live in my house, while they're living in my house, that kind of overweighed all those things. So when I had the opportunity to come back to Bethany High School, which is right around in the area where we were at when I was at Southwestern Christian, I was familiar with that area and how the district was set up. When that opportunity came available, that was something that I went at wholeheartedly, and I've really enjoyed it since I've been there. Just the day-to-day chance to see all three of my kids at certain points during the day. Right now, having a chance to coach both of my boys, both my seventh grader and sophomore at the same time, and that's an opportunity that you can't pass up on. Because those guys, when they're in your house and they're growing up, as they're coming through, you want to spend as much time with them as possible, because when they're out of your house and they're done playing ball, that stuff's all done. So I want to be able to take advantage of that time.
And Daddy might not be as cool anymore either.
Yeah, that's
well, you know how that goes.
Yeah,
been down that road. So, being the head basketball coach at Bethany, last year you guys missed the state tournament by 1 game. And I know that going in, and we're talking off there, that you're perhaps at worst top 10 in the state, but probably more like top 5 teams in the state right now going into the 2019-2020 season. So talk a little bit about what your expectations are there.
Well, for me in my coaching career, this is a unique opportunity. Being a college coach for years and years, 20 years prior to coming back to the high school ranks full time. At college ranks, you deal with a lot of turnover every year. You have lots of guys graduating, you have transfers, you have guys leaving the program, coming in and out. So you're dealing with almost a new team every year. Even if you've got some returners, most years you've got a lot of new faces and new things you got to try to do. With our team this year at Bethany, we have, I guess it's 75% of our scoring back, which that sounds less than what it really is. We have, our second leading scorer, a kid named David Miller, that's at Southern Nazarene.
I remember him. Yeah,
the team over there. He was about a 14 a game guy, and outside of him, we've got all of our major contributors from last year back. So having a team that has that much continuity, it's kind of been a unique opportunity here in the fall. Today was practice number 18, and we were working on things that we worked on in practice number 74 last year.
Oh, wow.
So we're way ahead of where we were.
Yeah, you are.
And, especially last year being year one, for a new program for me and bringing in a new system and a new style, it's a very steep learning curve for guys. And this year, year two, we've got a lot of guys that are just in lockstep with what we are wanting to try to accomplish, and are doing things that we want to talk about 2 and 3 weeks down the line. Stuff just happens in practice right now, and I'm like, that's on the practice plan for 2 or 3 weeks from now.
There you go.
And this just happened in here, so it's a unique opportunity for me to have so much continuity in the team, and it's a little different too. I come in last year, my first time on the 4A level, and having not been in high school ranks in 6 or 7 years or so, and not really knowing the lay of the land that much. This time a year ago, we had come off a summer of being pretty good in summer league ball, getting some good victories that first summer. But I was kind of in that coach speak mode where I thought we were going to be pretty good, but I just wasn't really sure of the lay of the land. And, that's something now that I know we're going to be really good. We were really good last year, and I think we got a chance to build on it this year. Like we were talking on before the show, there's 3 or 4 teams in our class that have really, really high level players, and we're a little different group. We feel like we've got a couple guys that are pretty high level guys too, but at the same time, we're going to attack this thing with depth and lots of quality players that can be called on from night to night. Guys can step up and contribute for us. But we're going to go about things a little bit different than some of the other higher rated teams in 4A, and I'm interested to see how it works out.
Well, I know that there's a lot of excitement around the Bethany community going into this year, and of course, your son Michael is has to be one of the top players on the team. Tell us a little bit about him without showing any favoritism, if you can.
Well, with him, he's something that's unique about our team is that on the 4A level, between Michael and then we've got another guy that's a 3-sport athlete, Peyton Tolley, that he's about 6'6" and about 240 pounds or so. That he's like I said, he's a 3-sport guy. He's a football, basketball, baseball guy. That he's a tight end, defensive end on the football field. He plays a center spot for us, and then he's a first base and a pitcher on the baseball field. He's really good at all 3 sports. And he gives us, in combination with Michael, he gives us 2 guys that there's not just a lot of 4A teams with that kind of size.
All right. And how tall is Michael?
Michael's about 6'8", and then Peyton's about 6'6" or so. These guys last year they kind of tag teamed for each other.
Right.
They just kind of rotated at one slot. Now this year we'll try to use them a lot more in tandem, and that's going to give us something unique, at least on our level, on the 4A level. And then we've got a senior point guard named Brennan Burns who's receiving a lot of interest from. Whether it's NAIA, junior college, or Division II teams, he's receiving a lot of interest and will continue on.
Sure.
During the year, we think he's a really, really high-level player and gives us a dynamic guy at that point guard slot. And then, then we've got 5 or 6 guys that, would kind of be considered wings and forwards that have a ton of experience. Brennan's brother Cameron will be a 3-year starter. Coming off the football field, you got Jordan Flinton and Sam Brandt, who started as sophomores last year, or 2 years ago as sophomores, and then both of them part-time starters last year. David Castillo and Luke O'Neill are juniors. They got some experience last year as sophomores, and now are radically different as juniors. Parker Garrison is another big body that we got inside that was a first-year guy with us last year. Got numerous guys up and down the roster that are going to be able to step right in there and contribute. And that's something that you just don't see a lot with having a combination of size, quickness, experience, and that's why we think we've got a chance to make some waves this year because of the different things that our roster can offer.
Well, I know it's. I'm looking forward to it, and of course, Kingfisher won the state title last year. We'll be back amongst the top teams in the state as well, so you've got your hands full.
Our conference is a little bit different. We're still in the conference with them, but. Instead of having to play those guys 3 times like we did last year with their historic squad for 4A, we've got them 1 time on the schedule this year. So
that'll help a little.
We're thankful for that.
Yep.
I don't think we'd be the only ones that say that we're happy about not playing those guys as many times as we did.
All right, so one of the things that I love about Quinn is, and by the way, if you're just joining us, this is the head basketball coach at Bethany High School. So Quinn Wooldridge. And he is also co-founder of the mentoring program, along with Kevin Foster and myself, that created about 7 years ago. And Quinn has spoke at a number of our events that we've done, our live mentoring events through the years. he has some great quotes and some great words of wisdom that I have used through meeting him and through the years. So if you'd care to share, one of your wisdoms with us before we part, because we're getting towards the end of our show, and just kind of leave these folks out here, people that tune in, to something they can carry with them tomorrow or next day or next week or throughout the rest of their life.
Well, really, one of my go-tos, I guess. I use this on my kids a lot too, at the house, and they're probably tired of hearing this a lot. And it's something I talked about maybe in our very first mentoring event that we did, and just a simple concept of not being afraid to do hard things.
Oh, one of my favorites.
That's for me, that just kind of rings true no matter what it is that you're trying to accomplish. It's kind of the old adage of low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Things are going to be easy to reach or easy to accomplish. Well, the yield on those things is usually probably pretty low also. Anything that's going to be worth you trying to accomplish or try to do, most of the time that stuff's going to be hard, or it really wouldn't be that big a deal to accomplish that.
That's right.
So, being able to just kind of dig your heels in and fight through good times, bad times, and come out on the back end of things that are challenging. If you'll hang in there, that's not only going to help you get to where you want to, but kind of helps it develop your personality and develop, just your ability to stick in there and hang in there. That you'll come out on the other side of things better.
So if y'all didn't catch that, don't be afraid to do the hard things, which is just one of my, when you hear that, I got the first time I ever heard that, and I have that on video, by the way, so we might have to incorporate that into one of our sound bites. But
probably had more hair at that point.
Not much.
A little bit more. A little less shine than I've got going.
Yeah, maybe, but not much difference. But you said that, and we had, we were at a location in Bethany, and it was our first event that we'd done, and our good friend and co-founder Kevin Foster did a 600-pound squat that day, and we had about 5 speakers, and they all went about 5 minutes each. But when you said what you said, I almost, I got those little hairs standing up on the back of my neck and chill bumps and those kind of things. I said, man, that's good stuff. So
that's just something whether you're raising kids or coaching teams or whatever you're doing, it's not always going to be birthday cake and balloons all the time. You got to be able to hang in there and keep fighting and doing things you want to try to accomplish, even when things aren't perfect. When you're not feeling great and a little bit tired, things aren't just lined up for you.
Yep,
hang in there and keep plugging.
Keep plugging away. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us on our special segment of Faithletic, the podcast. You are listening to our dedicated time, which is 8 p.m. on Thursday nights. If you want to tune in to one of our previous episodes, you may do so by either being on our Facebook page, or you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Faithletic. All you got to do, go to YouTube, punch in Faithletic, and you'll see our episodes. We've had 4 so far. This is episode number 5. And usually down there at the bottom, there's a little description of what shows. So if you're like, I don't know if I want to hear that one, but you see, and it'll say special guest Quinn Wooldridge on episode 5. So you can kind of pass it on to your, of course, you're not allowed to recruit at Bethany, so may not be able to use that. But you can, whatever. Get us all in trouble here in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks.
And it's always a pleasure. And guys, if you've got any questions, you can email me at faithletic@gmail.com. If you've got a question, if somebody out there is listening would like us to come into your location and do a remote, first time we don't charge. So we'll just come out and do it free of charge. So we're a nonprofit organization. We're hooked into Team Black Mentorship. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. So every dollar goes towards our mentoring program. So we thank everybody for listening tonight. Thanks for the viewers out there. KC, Kyle will be back next Thursday night, 8 o'clock. So thanks everybody for joining. Last words for me at all?
Gabby, go to bed.
That's his little girl, Gabby. All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining in.